Taking a photo is a 99% internal process. It's what I do with myself that counts the most. Making amends is an internal process. Making amends has long been known to be a powerful way to accelerate emotional healing. But the result of this understanding is that many people think that saying or doing something is all you have to do to find freedom again. While this can be true, the problem is that the internal has to be in alignment with the external. If I focus only on the doing, I may miss the essence of making amends, which is a shift of seeing. The mind can even become obsessed with checking off amends as a kind of technique for finding freedom. While the intention is good, it can become actually a kind of shallow exercise if done with the motive to fix myself or to get out of trouble. It kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. If I did something wrong, my parents might force me to say, I'm sorry, or to make amends somehow. I remember one time when I was about 7 years old, I actually stole a little spool of cash register paper tape from the grocery store. It was sitting in a box underneath the till. And I wanted to use it to make a number line, like we did at school, where you just write the numbers one after the other, and you can make this long spool of numbers. And I thought it was cool and fun. So when I got back home, my mom found that little thing, and she knew she didn't buy it. And so she basically found out that I had stolen it. And she sent me back to the store to make amends and give the paper tape back, which I did. But it didn't really fix my internal experience exactly. What it taught me was don't do that ever again because you're gonna have to go back and, you know, do that. That's a good thing. But it didn't completely fix my internal. So what I did when I went in, mom just made me go in by myself. I kind of lied to the cashier and said, "Oh, I found this." And she's like, "Oh, thank you," and put it away. And I didn't even make amends. That's kind of what happened. So it's a little different, but the idea is that I went through some kind of motions there, and it wasn't at the heart of really owning it. I accomplished the most superficial aspect of not even really, but kind of making amends. But I didn't do anything deeper. And it actually filled me with some kind of shame as a result. Because I was forced to make amends, my internal experience was not fully ready, not fully engaged in the process. I checked off the amends. I pleased my mom, but I missed out on the true feeling of freedom that I could have had by getting on board with making amends, being ready first, and then actually making the amends. Don't get me wrong, if I had truly admitted my wrongdoing to the cashier, it would have been a much more freeing experience for me. The external is important, but it only happens for real when it comes from within me. When I get to a place where I genuinely want to do it, even though it's hard, then my amends set me free, and that's the power of amends. There's something genuinely transformative about that kind of alignment. Ironically, even without parents around, I can end up forcing myself to make amends. And the result is the same. Forced amends are not very fulfilling. I can walk away from a forced amends feeling bad, even if I was the only one forcing myself. For me, there's pre-work to do before making amends. I don't like forcing myself, and I don't like the results of the external amends only approach. It ticks a box, but it doesn't allow true freedom to emerge. If I do some pre-work, though, before I make amends, the whole thing can change. For example, if I were age 7 again now, I could first write down my motives and beliefs connected with stealing the paper tape. For example, I want it. That's very operative in that moment. I need it for school. Not true, but certainly in the background. No one is using it anyway. It's just sitting there. Uh-huh. And if I ask, they will say no. That's a good one. Then I could question these thoughts using the work of Byron Katie, which is a great way to look at something from a different point of view. And I would probably come to some very interesting conclusions. For example, I don't want it could be as true. I don't want it could be as true for me because we actually already have paper tape at the school and I could use that anytime. So if I could just find a little perspective, that want or that need would fall away pretty quickly. And the turnaround, I don't need it for school, is also true. It's just me obsessing about a project that I liked beyond what was actually asked for in school. And also, yes, the paper tape is being used at the store, and it was under the till waiting to be used while other rolls got used up. So it's just a lie that it's not being used. Nobody needs it anyway. And finally, I have no idea if they might say yes or no. If I had asked, maybe even I could work out a way to buy it, possibly. If I had asked my mom and said, I want this, she could have found a way to get some. Maybe we go to a store where they sell them. So many possibilities are there. So I'm just glossing my work here, but these are turnarounds, and just playing with them already starts to shift my experience on an internal level. And that's what we're talking about here. Of course, if I was doing this work more formally, I would go through the process much more slowly and thoroughly using the 4 questions and turnarounds. And as I do that, my experience is that the internal really starts to shift. And when that changes, my desire to make amends starts to be much stronger. I could also question some other stressful thoughts about that situation, which are the kind of self-abuse thoughts, the ones where I'm beating myself up over it, feeling guilty. So I can make another list. For example, I'm a bad person for taking that paper tape. I should have asked for it. I should have known better. I did a terrible thing. When I question these thoughts, I find turnarounds like I'm not a bad person for taking that tape. I find understanding for myself instead. No, it's not a right thing to do. It's not what I would want to do again, but I get it. I got wrapped up and I lost my mind, and so I ended up taking it. What really happened was I liked the number line project at school. I wanted to do it at home. I saw the paper tape right there under the till. I didn't have the courage to ask for it, so I did the easiest thing. I took it. Was it right? No. But does it mean that I'm a bad person? No. I was just believing my thoughts, and so saw no other way to act in that situation. I see better options now. I also find turnarounds like I shouldn't have asked for it. Um, so the original was uh, I should have asked for it, right? I should have asked for it. But the turnaround would be I shouldn't have asked for it. So in retrospect, it was good that I didn't ask for it. In fact, ever since then, I rarely have even thought about stealing. There's nothing like learning through experience, and that came at a really early age, and somehow I got the message. So as I continue doing this kind of work and questioning my stressful thoughts, even when they're self-judgments, for example, I should have known better, and I didn't do a terrible thing. I shouldn't have known better. My self-blame starts to soften. I start to balance out I did do a terrible thing with I didn't do a terrible thing. I should have known better. I shouldn't have known better. And I start seeing that I'm basically a good person who did something I would not want to do again. And I'm not blaming or attacking myself. I'm seeing my innocence. Now I'm in a position to take responsibility. When I've truly seen my innocence, the effect is a kind of self-forgiveness. And when I see all the turnarounds to what I was believing, I find many more options to get what I wanted without stealing in that situation. With this change in perspective, I'm already feeling free. I have done the internal preparation work for making amends. Many times this kind of inner work is enough, actually. I may not even need to make the external amends. Since my perspective has shifted, my behavior naturally shifts as well. I call these spontaneous amends, where I'm not trying to make it right, but I'm spontaneously and naturally making it right. It's an effortless way of making amends that feels very natural and spontaneous. In fact, you often hear people say, actions speak louder than words. And so this is exactly what I'm talking about. When my vision has changed, when my perspective has changed, when my internal has changed, then my actions naturally start to line up in a different direction. Um, and I don't often need to say any words because my actions are speaking so loudly. But when I try to just use words without changing my way of seeing things, which means that my actions are not going to change, it doesn't add up to very much. And people see through it, and I see through it, and it's not very fulfilling. External actions come last. In some cases, it feels right to do some external actions to make it right. And after doing my internal work, when I'm in a more understanding frame of mind, I can then go back to the store, admit that I stole the paper tape without self blame. I still see my innocence, even while admitting my guilt. And I find that to be a really key point. I'm innocent and I'm guilty. Those two things really can balance each other nicely. And when I really hold that well, then I'm not blaming myself, but I'm also taking responsibility, and I'm not shirking. Uh, I'm not in denial of what I did. I'm not trying to hide it. So I can take full responsibility without shaming myself. And that's when amends feel good. The external act of making amends is the last step. If I rush it or force myself, I risk doing lip service to the process of making amends instead of delivering the real thing. And I'll end with a quote from Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. A heartfelt apology is simply a way to undo an error and begin again on an equal and guiltless basis. Apologize and make amends for your own sake. It's all about your own peace. What good is it to be a talking saint? We've got an earth full of them. Peace is who you already are without a story. Can you just live it?